Hi everybody, welcome back. This is a video for all us parents out there. I'm doing a lot of research on raising children with healthy beliefs because I really want to upgrade my parenting skills. And I'm finding that a lot of us, we either parent the way our parents parented or we do the opposite, which is completely reactive and not really intentional at all. Here's a tip that's really helping me. When my child walks away from me, what did they just conclude? Ask yourself that question. What did my child just conclude? Did they just make a mistake and learn from it and realize that mistakes are good? Or did they just make a mistake and feel bad about it and think that mistakes are bad? If they just walked away from you and said, I made a mistake and I learned from it, mistakes are good, that's great, good for you. But maybe they're like my kids sometimes and they walk away saying, I made a mistake, I'm stupid, I'm angry. Well, that's a belief that's going to impact them for the rest of their life. In today's world, you have to be innovative to succeed. And in order to be innovative, you have to make mistakes. That is all part of it. So you don't want your child to believe that mistakes and failures are bad. There's 3 things that every small child wants. And it's attention, affection, and acknowledgement. And I understand that you can't spend every second with your child. You shouldn't do that. But if you're on your phone and you're ignoring them or you're doing work or you're trying to do something, then there's a way to stop and speak to them directly, make eye contact, get down on their level, and say, what you're saying to me is very important, but I have to finish my work right now. And as soon as I'm done with my work, I want to hear everything you have to say. So if you criticize your child, they form a belief that I'm not good enough. And if you ignore your child, then they form the belief I'm not important. And if you don't give your child enough affection, then they conclude I'm not lovable. My children are the most important thing to me, but I can't tell you how many times I've been in a restaurant and they start running around and they won't sit down, and I get more concerned about what all those people in the restaurant are thinking than I do with my own child. So instead of getting angry and yelling, get over here, what's wrong with you? Sit down, go eye to eye with your child and say something like, of course you love running around. You're full of energy and this is exciting, but we can't run around right now because it bothers other people while they're eating. So let's sit down and let's play a game instead. What's actually happening to me in the restaurant, after some self-reflection, I've realized is that my own belief starts kicking in, that what other people think of me is what makes me good enough. Instead of asking questions like, what will best serve my child? Another really important thing you can start doing is acknowledge the effort and not the result. So if they win a soccer game, instead of being like, good win, that was great, say something like, you really worked so hard out there. You really put everything into it. Then the child goes internal and says to themselves, wow, I'm really amazing at this. And what happens is they start developing their inner voice and their inner control. The most important thing you could ever give your child is their inner voice, because you're not always going to be there, especially as they get older. You want your child to know that no matter what they do in life, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like it. But what's important is for them to ask themselves, what are the consequences going to be of my actions? And do I want to live with those consequences? Rather than worrying about what are my friends going to think of me. And you can start early. You can start this shift in their minds early. If they're arguing and they're not sharing, you can say something like, if you don't share your toys with them, they may not share their toys with you later on. So they can start thinking about consequences. I want my children to always feel the freedom of expressing themselves. And I want them to always know that there's always going to be somebody that thinks they're amazing and awesome and somebody that thinks they're weird. And I want them to rely on their own inner voice and not rely on what do other people think. If your child can develop their inner voice, then they will make responsible decisions as they get older. I'm guilty of this all the time, but you have to try to stop saying, because I said so, because that makes them feel like you're the boss. And instead of being the boss, you want to try to shift your mindset to becoming their guardian angel. If you say, because I said so, what will your child conclude from that? I'm powerless. And if your child feels powerless, then they defy you. Another really important thing that I'm learning is that you really need to validate their emotions. So if they say, I hate you, wow, you must be really angry right now to feel like that. And I understand that sometimes we feel angry. But it's not okay to speak to me like that. But still, you want to try to validate their emotions first. If my child tells me to shut up, then I tell him they cannot speak to me that way in a very calm voice. You can't speak to me that way. That's not how I speak to you. We respect each other in this family, and that's not how we're gonna talk. So validate their emotions and then acknowledge them and ask questions like, what do you think would happen? What do you think the consequence will be if you do this? Anytime you can teach them to look inside, you're giving them the best tool possible. If you want your children to not worry about peer pressure, then you have to help them develop their inner voice. I'm Sarah Stone, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have younger children, I know it's helped me a ton. If you liked it, please leave me a comment, subscribe, share it, and join me next week.